Well, hello and welcome to PM Express. Should I say a happy, beautiful week to all of us. And today we are looking at job losses and discussing, even before we came on air, we are even thinking of those who have regular jobs, who get a regular pay. And look at how they struggle just to stretch this pay till the next pay. Imagining waking up, turning up at work, and you're told you have no job. Probably your mom who lives far away, relies on a bit of your income to supplement her prepaid. Your sister in school is looking at you to supplement her transportation to school, running your home, school fees for your children. I mean, it must be an absolute nightmare that I dread to even contemplate. And these are those who are even, get paid. But there's 700 jobs gone. Is this something that the economy is not expanding enough? Is it merely just because of the banking saga that's caused all these problems? What actually is going on? And I think it calls for special attention because, leaving all these guys out there to their fate, consequences are just too dire. There are no jobs out there. Graduates will finish school and they'll roam and give out CVs. And nothing happened. The production industry is not booming for people to, start producing something. What should be done? What should be done? TV Africa is laying up. Group Indom is laying up. EIB Network is also laying off. Who's next? And what should we do? We'll speak to labor experts, speak to labor economists, people in the industry to find out, what's going on and how can we mitigate this. My name is Nana Nsakwa IV, Chief of the Little Republic of Akwamu Dumasa. When I come back, we are looking at job losses. Well, thank you very much for staying. If there was time, I'd really want to ring out and see what the mood is out there. If you rely on a brother or an uncle who's lost their job, what's life for you now? With me in studio is Wisdom Goku, who was a former worker of Beige Bank, which has now been consolidated. Wisdom, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then I have my own brother, Ben Arthur, who's a labor consultant and also an engineer, wears many hats, but today I need him here as a labor consultant. Ben, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'll start with you, Wisdom. How long did you work with Beige?
Well, I worked with Beige for 2 years.
And which department were you?
The micro banking department.
Okay, so you are the guys who go out and get... Now, did you at any time sense that, look, things are going to go, pear-shaped?
Not at all. It came as a shock to all of us because we all thought we were doing very well. Looking at the way we were on the ground, working, trying to bring customers to the bank, and generally we were doing very well. So it came at a shock to all of us. We're not envisaging that at all.
Now, you didn't get any wind? There's nothing, rumors in the wind that, look, there may be something going wrong with the bank and we should start looking elsewhere?
Not at all. Like I said, it came as a shock to all of us. We normally have morning meetings before we start our daily business. So they keep assuring us every day that we are meeting the minimum requirements. So we thought that we are at a very good position to acquire the minimum requirement. So it came as a shock. We were very surprised when the takeover happened.
But now you have been paid the 2 months which you were demanding. Initially it was delayed. So are you looking at severance, or the 2 months is okay, you're walking away?
Well, I believe in procedures and processes. So the most important thing for us is what we have worked for, our July and August. Now that it has been paid, I must say, for severance package, I will leave it to the law to take its cost.
So leaving it to the law, man who knows the law, one or two about labor stuff, Ben. I mean, it's quite unprecedented.
Yeah, Nana, thank you for the opportunity, but let me take this opportunity to say good evening to all our viewers. It's a bit sad that my friend mentioned that he will allow the law to take its course. What I want him to do is to take action. For the law, unfortunately for labor, earlier before the show, I had asked him whether they have a union in place. Pardon me, I've lost my voice a bit.
Okay.
They don't have a union, but they need representation. If you don't have representation, you will not be able to have a collective action as far as these matters are concerned. They have not had any collective bargaining agreement in which one can find what must happen when amalgamation or takeovers or complete seizure of operations happened. They don't have any agreement to that effect. But the law allows them to sit down with the employer and negotiate. The unfortunate thing in their case is that the labor law, I'm just being specific, I'm referring to Labor Act 2003, that is Act 651, which states in Section 65 that if any employer contemplates amalgamation, seizure of operations, or change in technology, or even in products, before you'll be able to undertake such an action, once you can anticipate terminations or diminutions in terms of terms and conditions of service, there is a need for you to consult, engage, or write to the chief labor officer. Then the chief labor officer, within this period, will scrutinize, because people have many antics for ceasing operations. Sometimes others have made their profits. They want to go into other ventures, so they want to pack their bag and baggage and move off. We see employment in this country as a fundamental human right, according to Article 36. So once you have contemplated any of these things, we also want to protect the right of the worker. So we ask you to do this in writing, so that there will be a genuine assessment of the case. And normally, one of the key things that is preferred is that you see whether there can be alternative employment, or if anybody can be retrained to fit somewhere. You have to look at all these opportunities. Then you come out with the calculations as to how many people are going to be affected. Then they will be able to sit down with you, either with themselves or with their representation, and then you negotiate, provided you don't have any agreements already existing. All these things have not been done. To their surprise, the employer packs away or is consolidated into another body, and nobody seems to, speak for them. So it's a bit sad, but the law is on their side. You have to take action.
Let me take you to anticipate. I mean, the bank said, look, Bank of Ghana sprang this up, to our surprise. We thought, we were going to operate, but the bank says, no, we should cease operating. So we didn't anticipate the central bank to do this to us.
Oh, quite recently, I've had an opportunity of interacting with senior officers of Bank of Ghana. And the truth of the matter is that it is not a surprise. It's not a surprise to the workers. The employers have made it a surprise to them. A typical example was the UT case, when early in the morning they saw a GCB Bank logo being displayed in their headquarters and elsewhere. To the workers, it's been a surprise. But to the employers, the shareholders, it is never a surprise. Bank of Ghana will not spring that surprise on you. There are always notifications. And when you are not doing well, there are always notifications. When they are coming in to help you,
Is there a time frame? Because Bank of Ghana could tell you on Monday that, listen, by next week you don't have a bank, so next Monday you come. So within that week, is it a time frame that you inform people that, look, we only have a week to wind up?
Well, I'm not aware of just that short notice, but I know that at any point in time, you always get to know. I have interacted with the senior officers of the Bank of Ghana. It is always not a surprise. As we are being told, it's not a surprise at all. But again, it tells me that we haven't educated the workforce of our country to, especially when it comes to workers knowing their rights. Mm-hmm. Under our labor laws, you are entitled to relevant information that has to do with your employment. So why would any employer believe that the safest means to carry this out is to shield or to take away relevant information from workers? You are all partners at the workplace. I am trading my skills for what you are giving me as a pay. So we are partners at the workplace. Why would you want to, take away all of this? Assuming that out of anger, the workers had decided to embark on a massive demonstration, and that had culminated in destruction of vital information. How would you handle this? So it's not wise, and let me emphasize, it's very unwise to hide such an information from workers.
Wisdom, you work there. If they had given you notice to say, a week, 2 weeks later, we would have no job, how useful would that be to you?
Yeah, it would have been useful because we would have psyched ourselves up for the unfortunate. But here as the case, we were just in the office that fateful afternoon when the KPMG officials and the BOG officials came, and then we asked to stop everything we are doing and then attend to them. We were kept there for almost 2 hours. That day, the normal closing time was 5, but we left the office almost getting to 8 p.m. That day. They have to go to vote and count all the money there. They have to take stock of all the machines and other valuables that we have in our branch that day. So it was a traumatizing experience for us because we were not envisaging that incident to happen at all, because we the workers, we thought we were doing very well. You understand?
Let me go to the phone, and I have Austin Gamer, who's a senior labor expert, if I may call him that. Mr. Gamer, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much.
Brother. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, and I thank you for lending us your time this hour. But let me start this way. Mr. Kwesi Chum has his company, Multimedia. He's employed me, come and do PM Express. He wakes up tomorrow and says, I don't want to.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Very good. I am looking at the job losses, and they are mainly in the private sector. So I'm saying, Mr. Kwesi Chum wakes up tomorrow and decides, look, I can't be asked running this business and, worrying about buying cameras and whatever it is. Look, I'm folding up. Thank you very much. What can we do? Because most of these 700 jobs are in the private sector. If indeed the owners don't want to continue, assuming the owners didn't even want to continue running the business anymore, do we have any rights to say, no, you have to continue because I have to look after my mother or pay my school fees, so whether you like it or not, keep the business running?
Thank you. And good evening to my brothers there with you.
Great. I have Mr. Ben
my
Arthur.
Friend, Ben Arthur.
Yes.
I think I've heard him. I've heard others also.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that in its entirety what he's saying is not right. But I think that there is some small variation which I'm sure he will appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Reference to Section 65 especially if you take the case of Joy TV, as you just mentioned, multimedia, as you mentioned. Multimedia's case, under the circumstance you describe it, will fit into Section 65 he rightly quoted, because they have contemplated that the situation they found themselves in may not be appropriate continuing with the business. So he would have taken steps to inform, because he contemplated it as an employer. He would take steps to inform the chief labor officer and notify him that this is what we want to do. There'll be a lot of information he will have to supply, including the number of people involved, the position they occupied, when they started the work, how much they earn, and so forth and so on. Then he will engage the workers, whether they are unionized or not unionized is immaterial. That's why we did not say necessarily negotiate with the union. We said negotiate with the workers. But in the unlikely event that the people are not unionized, just like we are experiencing now, they will still engage them to enable them have access to a redundancy pay, and that will properly fit into redundancy. The circumstance in which these banks found themselves is different. It's not a contemplated action by the employer who employed them. There is a regulator, as Mr. Atta rightly pointed out. There is a regulator called Bank of Ghana. Their business is to ensure that the banks operate in a certain direction. And if they are veering off from that direction, and they can be certain that that is not in consonance with the laid down operating procedures, then they will take steps. And part of the step has led to what you want to describe as they have been told that their license is revoked, and therefore they are suffering some kind of job losses, as the case may be. They do not have to inform the chief labor officer in the circumstance, but the Bank of Ghana is not the employer. And so they have suffered this, just like UT and maybe the other bank, Capital Bank, suffered. So that is why they have to appoint a receiver. The receiver is not representing the employer of the bank. The receiver, by law, is appointed by Bank of Ghana to ensure that they pull together all the properties of the people, audit is done, sales are maybe conducted, money harvested are kept in a bank account, and they go through a procedure. And disbursement, this disbursement is not going to be done under the canopy of Labour Act 2003 Act 651. It's going to be done under the canopy of the Deposit Act 930. So I've heard many people talking about this in that direction. It's not entirely, this is not a severance exercise that the people are going to sit and negotiate what you want to describe as redundancy pay under Act 651, exactly the section he quoted. This is different. They come under Act 930, and it will be dealt with through the office of the receiver that has been appointed, not even the Consolidated Bank, because the Consolidated Bank is not their employer.
Wow. Let me bring Ben in here now. I mean, if I'm listening to Mr. Game, it's an accident that's befallen even the owner of the company and the guys who are employed there. So we are all in the same. So who's going to look after me too, basically?
Yeah, what I was articulating is that I was just giving the section that explains that if you contemplate or if you could anticipate, and once, as explained, it doesn't fit that situation, fair enough. But if an employer in this country contemplates, or when there's an amalgamation, which in this case consolidation, of course, if you're putting banks together, it's a very conscious effort. It's a very conscious effort. So once there's an amalgamation that one could predict, what I'm saying is that as an employer, if for nothing at all, you must show respect to your employees and let them be informed. Even when Bank of Ghana stepped in, just 2 days notice, you are still under obligation to ensure that the employees have been duly informed.
Let me bring Mr. Game in here. Mr. Game, do the employees have a right to know that, listen, we are heading towards, dead end?
This is a financial institution. Assuming they inform them to the time of this exercise, I can assure you there will be not one person there. It will not even be available for them to take a look at. I think that this is not the first time this has been done in Ghana here. And we should not go back and create more problem, in the minds of people. This is purely an insolvency situation. This is not a situation of people being severed legal working relationship with because the employer saw that the job is shrinking, and so I want to cut down on labor, retain some of the people, and therefore I want to take steps. Then you will inform the chief labor officer. This is like an earthquake. And when earthquake is coming, they don't inform people. So this is a banking institution. If you take steps to inform the people in advance, will you see one person out there? So I think that we need to understand and appreciate. I empathize with the workers so much. Some of them might be my brothers and sisters. Even if it's my enemy, it's a human being. But I think that in fairness to the system, it appears that if they kept them a day longer, there could be a problem. And therefore, there is nowhere in the world where you are going to declare insolvency and you keep the people, the tellers, everybody who are holding money and so forth. I mean, will you see any money there? I don't have any, attribute anything bad to them, but it may not be proper. I mean, if you want to go into details of these things, it may not be proper to notify them that in 2 weeks' time, in 3 weeks' time, I'm coming to close down the bank. So whatever money that is there, then it cannot be possible that way. And this is not the first time it's been done.
The other thing which Ben raised, and I want you to check on you, that even though they don't have unions and the law says they should deal with the workers, at the moment, should they have a rep so that, because you can't have, let's say, if a bank has 100 workers, have all these people dealing with the paymaster differently. Should they come together and form a rep, even if they don't have a union, so that they deal with a rep?
I don't think the regulator, Bank of Ghana, is insensitive to this. That is why they have appointed a receiver. Let me be very frank with you. The case of elsewhere Ghana Airways.
Yeah.
They cannot do anything about the aircraft that is there. So they were properly informed. I think I formed part of the team that negotiated on behalf of the workers with the receiver, not the employer. Okay. The employer himself is out. So you don't even have a mouth. You are yourself going to appear before the receiver for whatever person that is left for you. Now, the case of the previous bank, the construction bank and the rest, they were dealt with through a receiver. Now, the case of the recent one, which is Capital Bank and UT Bank, I can tell you that negotiation was done with the workers, even though they were not unionized. They took steps, went to call Unicorp. Unicorp represented them. PricewaterhouseCoopers appointed a consultant, and we start with them and negotiated their exit package. It's not a redundancy pay. They were not being severed legal relationship with because the workers are shrink. A number of them will be kept, and a number of them will go. That is not the issue. This is an earthquake. Everybody run for your life. But a way have been found out, and they have been negotiated with. They have a pay put together for them, but they come under Act 930, Section 135, for the disbursement of the amount to be done in accordance with the law. And that is the reason why appeals are being made to the Bank of Ghana, if you like, the governor, who has a discretionary power under that law to lift them up from the number, because they are number 4 on the list. They may not be paid at a goal as people contemplate, if we want to go by the law. But because of the humanitarian aspect of it, the governor can give his discretion and request that they should be lifted up from where they are and paid, if not all at a go, some reasonable amount of money, and the rest are paid later. These kind of things must be understood by all of us, so we don't mingle it as if it is a pure severance and people are going to be paid redundancy pay under subsection 4 of 65.
Mr. Game, hold on 1 second. I have Wisdom Goku, who is a former worker of Beige Bank, and I'm sure he wants free consultation from you.
Okay, Mr. Game, thank you for the opportunity. Under the circumstances and what you have enumerated so far, we will be asking for too much if we ask for severance packages?
Well, this is not a case of severance. Severance under the Section 65 is a technical, language that suggests that your employer will no longer be keeping some of you, so they will be laying some of you off, and therefore they will inform Chief Labor Officer. Then you come under subsection 4 of 65 to negotiate a redundancy pay. This is not a redundancy. This is purely an insolvency situation which has been imposed upon your bank, because if your license is revoked, you don't have locals to do any business. That is why you come under Act 930. They are not saying, I don't think they are saying that they will not negotiate with you. The receiver that have been appointed, I think that they are maybe ahead, that they are making every strenuous effort to get in touch with your leadership to enable them to negotiate with you people what they can afford to pay you. Because it's about now collection. They will have to sell those things that they are not going to keep, and those are the ones that they will harvest the money paid into the account of the Bank of Ghana, out of which you will be paid, out of which statutory payments will be made, out of which your Social Security will be paid, and so forth and so on. So it's not a question of they will not listen to you at all. Maybe it's a question of time.
So, hold on. And before I take a break, let me just bring. But do you want to add anything? Or?
No, I'm all right.
So, would you still insist that, look, come together and form a rep, or look, everybody write their letter to the paymaster?
Once you're dealing with a collection of workers, it's very prudent to have a kind of representation, especially if you have the same life terms. If you want to negotiate with Mr. A, who has a certain category, call X, and you have a number of them, it's better you deal with representations, because if you're dealing with 700 workers who have been laid off and they are all coming to you individually to negotiate their exit, that would be very expensive and cumbersome. So it's better that at least as far as the workers can agree, or those who have been affected can agree to a representation, it makes it easier. So at a setting, you realize that everybody is on board, even though it's not everybody who is in the room. It's much easier, more comfortable, cheaper, going by that method.
I'm going to take a quick break here, and then when I come back, we're still looking at job losses to find out are there more in the pipeline to happen, and what's the consequences to the economy. Don't go. Well, thank you very much for staying, and we're looking at job losses happening mainly in the private sector, 700 and counting. Are there more to come? With me in studio is Wisdom Goku, who is a worker, or was a worker of the then Beige Bank, now Consolidated Bank. I have Ben Arthur, who is a labor consultant, and on the phone is a senior labor consultant, Austin Game. And Mr. Game, I'm sure you wanted to add another point to your submission.
Yeah. Let me make a separation for my brothers there to appreciate what I was saying for the listener. You see, about some 10 years ago, Unibank invited my office to come and advise them as to how to lay off some of their workers through severance exercise. We properly advised them, wrote to the Chief Labor Officer, got the workers who were not unionized, got them together, negotiated with them properly, and they were fully paid their redundancy pay. I'm referring to Unibank. And equally, the pregnant women who were to be laid off at the time, in accordance with the law, it prevented the management from letting go the pregnant women. Even the lactating mothers, we did not allow them to let them go because that is in consonance with the law. But this one it is purely an earthquake. You don't have anybody to sit with you and talk with you as your own employer. That is why they have appointed a receiver. They are not going to be denied, I think so. They should go put themselves together. Like I've heard ICU talking, I've heard Unicorp talking. They can put the two of them together. They should go and meet the receiver, give them audience, and they will negotiate whatever is due them, and it will be paid in accordance with Section 135 of Act 930, not the Labour Act. So we need to be very clear and separate the two, but we don't mix it up as if it is a severance exercise and therefore entitled to some kind of redundancy pay.
Mr. Game, thank you very much for that clarification. So, Wisdom, I think you need to be now channeling your energies towards the receiver and not central bank or your previous employer, so that you go to the receiver and ask them if there's anything they can do for you. Ben, that's what they have to do.
Yeah, definitely. But I wish I had had an opportunity to ask my boss some few questions.
Well,
How was the Consolidated Bank Limited formed? Did they have to register with the Registrar General? What time did it take to register? Were the owners of these banks that have been put together to form Consolidated Bank, were they consulted? Were they engaged? Did they have anything to do with the registration? If these answers are yes, then one ought to examine the case very, very, very well. Yes, there has been an accident. I agree with my senior colleague entirely on that. But if one could be very conscious enough to anticipate a consolidation, come together, form, register a bank and have a certificate for that, and to even have a banking license, which does not take one day to obtain, then especially from my point of view, I see it as not being fair to workers when they are not informed. Yes, the responsibility to protect depositors is very, very important, but we are equally charged to also protect the workers. I mean, not just the workers as their salaries, but at least their human rights issues. So we can look at it from various dimensions. As to the protection of the rights of the workers is also important, or because we are protecting depositors, we should entirely forget about the protection of these people. So it's an argument we could go ahead and have, but I do not think we have to have it at this forum. We need to make progress.
Okay. Joining us on the phone now is Professor William Bar Boating, a labor economist and also head of the economics department, University of Ghana. I'm going to come to you soon, but in studio is Wisdom. And Wisdom, in reality, if I told you that, look, in 2 weeks' time, the bank is going to go down, will you still go around to shops and say, look, bring me money, I'm going to put in the bank, bring me money, I'm going to put in the bank, or you tell your customer, look, hold on, because we are collapsing, there's no need you putting money in the bank. I mean, how can you work? If the bank had told you that, look, in 2 weeks down, there's no bank, how do you go out and still tell people that, look, the bank is still going to collapse, but look, still bring your money? It will be difficult.
Yeah, I agree with you. It will be difficult, but still, that was what we actually did after the takeover. You know, when the takeover happened, we were told that there are not going to be any losses in terms of customers' deposit and all that. So some of them due to the panic. They were doing panic withdrawals and all that. So we were the ones calming them down and then trying to encourage them to remain calm because their monies are still safe with us. Just that it's just going to be a name change, okay? And then in the actual fact, some of them were still bringing funds because of the trust we built with them over time. So yes, it's going to be very difficult, but still, that was what we were doing.
Let me go on the phone and speak to Professor William Boateng. Prof, let me start by saying congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Prof, are we going to see more of this in the market, these layoffs in the private sector?
Well, it's very difficult to predict. We have to understand that layoffs, that is the decision normally taken by enterprises or employers, or let me say management. And we also have where workers decide to leave their enterprise and go somewhere. I mean, these are daily occurrence in the labor market. I mean, you have one layoff or the other, or we have one employee leaving his job and moving to another job, or maybe quitting and traveling and so on. So it happens every day. However, when we have what is the layoff, that is something that occurs as a result of some challenges the economy is facing, or some challenges some sectors are facing, like we are having in the banking industry. It calls for some kind of a setup. All of us need to set up because it doesn't become something which is normal. So, like any economy, when we have these challenges, we expect that there's going to be some people who are going to be affected, and normally the worker who has to bear the brunt of such challenges. So for me, I expected it, especially last year when we had 2 banks folding up, and then this year we have five banks being collapsed. One, what I expected, and that one is not something you get conjecture. It's something that you should expect, that when you collapse these banks, efficient, and in trying to build efficiency, you expect to suffer. Therefore, you expect some kind of layoff.
Doc, we've seen most media houses that are linked to financial institutions, majorly hit. Are there other areas that will be hit later that we haven't looked at?
Well, any enterprise, any activity that has direct link with these will feel the heat. And I think we should bear in mind, if you take, let's say, Unibank as an example, we have some companies and enterprises that are linked to Unibank, that if all of them were benefiting from the progress that Unibank was making, and now if the bank is having some challenges, to expect that the negative effect will affect all these enterprises. So any institution or any enterprise that has direct link, or even if the link is a bit remote, you still have some kind of effect felt by these enterprises. And there could be some kind of trickle up, or if you like, trickle down effect, but it will not be as much as the mother institution. Of course, as it moves on to those that are linked, the effect reduces. But we should expect that if the mother institution is having challenges, the children may also have to bear part of those effects.
No, would they have any effect on the economy, or these are, one or two people who just, hit some casualty, or on the larger economy, will this have any effect?
Well, I think I have heard people saying banking crisis, and I beg to differ. The banking industry is having some challenges, and the regulators are trying to put measures in place to correct them. If we have crisis is a big word. Crisis is something that all of us would have been running helter-skelter. But what we have now is a challenge, which for me is a turbulence. Let's say you are on the plane and you begin to experience some turbulence, and within a period, I think it will cool down, and we will see our way clear. So I don't think it's a big thing that we should panic. Of course, those who are in the shift, those who are affected, feel the heat more, and therefore we are talking about it. You may look at it from that perspective. But if you take, let's say, the banking industry, even if one person loses his job, I am saying you can discount it. But if you put it in perspective, and if you have about 13 or 13.5 million people, all kinds of work, and the formal sector accounts for more than just about 2 million, and the financial sector take about 1 or 2% of this. In that regard, you may say that the effect is not going to be so big. It's not going to be so big if you have an economy which is dominated by informality. But if you have an economy which is more formal, like what we have in advanced countries, the effect will have been very huge. And remember 2007, 2008, the financial crisis that occurred in the U.S. and the developed world. You realize that it hit the entire world because the structure of those economies is more formal. But when you come to our part of the world, the effect direct will not be felt. But if you expand it to look at those who are going to lose jobs and their dependents, that is where you may have the effect being higher. But it will not be as big as if the Ghanaian economy was highly formal.
Doc, let me take you back to challenge and crisis. I mean, it was an 8 billion bailout. I mean, that's nearing crisis, isn't it? That's more than a challenge.
Well, you say 8 billion. If you measure crisis from that perspective, then I have a challenge because we have about 34 banks, and there's 34 universal banks. And if you have 7 of them not collapsing, of course, you expect of them holding up, and then 5 of them being collapsed into banks. And of course, Consolidated Bank is operating. It I've read is anything to go by. They are putting measures in place for it. It means that it is not a total kind of collapse. So that is where I look at the challenge, because if you look at the banking industry and those banks, what is their market share? If their market share is about more than 50 or 60%, and these banks are having that kind of challenge, then you can then rise up and say, yes, we have a crisis. But perhaps if you look at the market share of these banks, will not be that big. And if the regulators are trying to see how best they can resuscitate something, then I will not call that as crisis. Of course, if you have 8 billion bailout, that bailout is going to solve. That doesn't make it a crisis. It makes it a challenge.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much for that insight, Professor William Boatin there. Let me come to Ben. Ben, crisis or challenge?
If you look at the percentage, one will say that it's a challenge, it's a difficulty. But I have a contrary opinion as to whether this is minor or not. About 2 years back, I had a conversation on one of the Sunyani radio stations. I've forgotten the name of the station. And we had a conversation like this as to job sustainability. And I mentioned on that platform that one of the areas that in the next few years we're going to experience challenge will be the financial sector. And he asked, these were my reasons, and I stand on your platform to predict that in the next 2, 3, 5 years, we're going to have many more banks collapse. You see, globalization and technology is shutting down barriers and creating competitions in such a way that if you don't go by the structural shift, the dynamics in your field, you'll be behind. The telcos and the financial technology firms are the real banks we are dealing with. As we speak, as I'm reliably informed, MTN is looking for banking license. Now just imagine tomorrow, MTN has a banking license. I am telling you, Ghana Commercial, Barclays, and the rest, they will collapse. So it's a trend. And it looks as if, apart from cases of mismanagement that have been cited and the rest, people are simply not weaving into the structural shift. I hold this thing in my hand. I have an app on it called Orobo. Once it's licensed, I'm able to transfer money in and out, cross borders, once Bank of Ghana authorizes it. So this is my banking hall. My teller is sitting here, right here. So the dynamics are changing. Again, if it comes to the private sector entirely, there's one trend that is also developing and people are not following. The issue of job for life is giving way to contract work and casualization. People prefer to hire 1 or 2 people on contract and say that, come, get this job done, take this for a fee, instead of hiring him at the age of 24 and can only exit when there is some malfeasance or when the person is getting to a retirement age, as far as the job will continue to exist. So we need to look at that. I'm not the only one saying it. The ILO World Employment and Social Trends Outlook for 2018 also makes the prediction for developing nations that we are unable to match job growth with our labor force growth. So these are trends that we need to follow. And anybody who says that we are not going to incur any more job losses in the financial sector is not looking at the trends very, very, very well. We also have a peculiar situation in this country that I think we need to address. We do not have a lot of job skills matching the job availabilities. I mean, the skills that we give to people matching the market. We have a lot of people who have been to school, gotten trained, but we have not done so matching the industry gaps or the opportunities available. So definitely, you must experience some of these things. We are also having job losses because people have grown and developed the mentality that I am going to get a white-collar job. We need to emphasize on entrepreneurial training and to ensure that a lot of people can also hire themselves, do something for themselves, and at the end of the day, they can also survive.
So it's a changing trend that we need to really wake up to.
Definitely, we have to wake up to that challenge.
We have a habit of not waking up to things. So you think it will come and hit us by a storm one day? Because I don't see any culture of changing trends coming.
When you say culture of changing trend, what exactly?
Well, I mean, if we are going to move into the technology age, if we are going to move into, smaller numbers doing bigger outputs, at the moment we are looking for, bigger people. You hire me till I'm 60 before I go. That's still the trend.
Yeah, it's a trend, but it's changing very, very, very fast. You see, the banking sector started doing some things that we were all not probably looking at. Instead of hiring the individuals on permanent basis, they were contracting them, and they were contracting some of their services to other people. There are various changing dynamics at the workplace. Even when you go to offices, how people arrange the chairs, where people used to sit in cubicles and there's have changed. They want to work by workstations, and so we have a lot of changes.
Let me give you 1 minute to make a final comment.
Okay. I will go back to what labor expert Austin Game said. I perfectly understood what he said, but to be fair to our former employers, they employed a chunk of the Ghanaian populace, and that is what puts food on their table. That is what supports their livelihoods, you see. And so before the takeover, what the BOG guys and the Minister of Finance told us was that there are not going to be immediate job losses. Okay, if there are not going to be immediate job losses, why then are we being sent home? Okay, and they have to, now that we are being sent home, they have to make provisions to send us home very well, so that those of us who start businesses on our own can do that. You know, a number of us have siblings and other people
that rely on you all
exactly.
too soon. That's what time will allow us. The number is 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001, and that's Tantees. They make my shirts for the show. They're just by Nyaho Clinic. They're just by Nyaho Clinic right here in Accra. But if you give them a call wherever you are, they will send you a shirt. Just tell them the size you want and say they'll send you a shirt. But I want to say thank you to my guests in studio. Wish the best for all those who have hit this earthquake. Hopefully they land on softer grounds. But tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you for watching. Gentlemen, thank you.